guys. So this video is long overdue. I did originally do it, but I had some issues with my files and they all got corrupted. So I'm here today to retake the video, and this video is going to be all about mast cells. I'm going to try and make this video as short as possible. It's a very in-depth subject, but I'm going to try and kind of condense it. So first, mast cells. What are they? They're white blood cells. They're like fighter cells in our body. Their primary role in the body, I should say, or I could say, is to fight off parasites. That's what they were believed to be like their original role. So pretty much they fight off foreign invaders, and that is when they are activated, is when there is a foreign invader of any type in the body. Now, when I say any type, I mean it can be a parasite, it can be a food that your body doesn't like, it can be a toxin from like something you breathe. Anything can make mast cells react. So that's a short little synopsis, I guess. Mast cells, when they are activated, they release histamine and a bunch of other cells that are called immune mediator cells. That have a bunch of different roles when it comes to the allergic reaction that is then created from mast cells. Reactions with mast cells typically, can last like 1 to 2 hours, but they can even take like a full day to resolve depending on the severity. I think that's a word. How severe they are. It depends on how severe they are. So my journey with mast cells kind of began before I realized that's what I was dealing with. So again, mast cells are overreactive and react when there are foreign invaders, and Lyme is a foreign invader. And all the co-infections are foreign invaders, and all the infections that I've dealt with are foreign invaders. So I don't really know when exactly my mast cells started getting activated. I started noticing, let me rewind. When I first got diagnosed with Lyme, I took like gluten and dairy and corn and stuff all out of my diet because I was reacting to them. And then I had like I think it's IgE, like the typical food allergy testing done. And I had some random ones like dates and cinnamon. And now looking back on it, I realized that a lot of them were high histamine foods that I was coming up allergic to. But, so that was kind of my, like, I had a set list of allergies that I knew of. And that's what I avoided. And when I did my, my healing diet, my paleo or AIP, when I started AIP, those are kind of what I focused on avoiding. But things kind of changed around the time that I was dealing a lot with SIBO, and then transitioned into parasite treatments. And that's really when I noticed things flaring in an allergic response kind of way. So when I did 2 parasite treatments. And I found myself having, around that time, to take Benadryl all the time because I was itchy, I was hot, my temperature was never regulated. And that was kind of the extent of my allergic reactions. And I realized, like, at first I didn't realize it was an allergic reaction because I never reacted to anything before Lyme. Like, I never reacted to bee stings or anything. So I was like, this is weird. But I realized that it was like, holy crap, I'm having an allergic reaction. And then I like tied how my GI tract was doing into that, and realized my GI tract was also having inflammation from different foods. And slowly but surely, I kind of, was researching it, and I happened upon the low histamine diet. So the foods that I first realized were kind of being, they weren't being tolerated, that I was eating before I did full AIP were nut butters, like sprouted nut butters, sprouted seed butters. I loved making little snacks out of those, and I realized that those just really didn't do good anymore. So I took those out. I didn't really take out things like vinegar and stuff, like all those other high histamine foods. I kind of just focused on the nuts. But then like spinach ended up being one. Tomatoes I already didn't eat. So I don't know when it was exactly that I happened upon the low histamine diet. Oh, my phone's dying. But, and honestly, I don't know where this timeline's kind of all over the place. But so we had a friend that her daughter went through some similar things with Lyme, and they had a Chinese medicine doctor in New York City who kind of dealt with allergies and histamine, and she also worked alongside an actual allergist. So the Chinese medicine doctor kind of did the herbs, and the allergist did the medication. And it was getting to the point where I ended up seeing her because I was getting anaphylaxis from different foods. And even though like I would eat low histamine, I can't say I ate 100% low histamine. The foods I was reacting to, like fish was a big one, would give me anaphylaxis, but I was pretty much having anaphylaxis at every meal, even if the foods I was eating wasn't high in histamine, just because my mast cells were so activated and so angry, and they had gotten so angry ever since that parasite treatment. It's like things just blew up. So I started seeing them, and she put me on some herbs, and we did some acupuncture and different stuff, and that is when the allergist put me on cromolyn, which I'm still on and I still take, which we will get to later. But so that's kind of where my journey with mast cells began. I started the low histamine diet, so I was eliminating, obviously, chocolate, which I didn't really eat anyways because it's not on AIP, but like spinach, mushrooms, any vinegar, anything fermented, so like sauerkraut, kombucha, all those types of things are higher in histamine. Fish, shellfish. I stopped batch cooking. I stopped cooking for myself, and like making. I used to make got like a bug bite on me. I used to make like breakfast patties and then freeze them, or put them in the fridge, and I stopped doing that because leftover meat has histamine as well. So that. Sorry, my husband just texted me. He's giving me time to finish my videos. All right, back to what I was saying. So that is kind of where that's kind of where my journey with mast cells began. And next we'll kind of talk about where I am now. So actually, before we talk about where I am now, let's talk about symptoms real quick. Histamine and mast cells can cause so many different reactions and symptoms, and that's because mast cells are literally pretty much everywhere on the large surfaces on your body. They're all over your skin, they're in your respiratory tract. I think they're actually derived from your bone marrow, so I mean they are kind of everywhere. So symptoms for me, they started with the itching and the bloating, and like not being able to regulate my temperature at all. And then slowly that would get worse. Like I can remember in the dead of winter, right? I must have, eaten something with histamine maybe for lunch, or maybe it was before dinner, but I'd be so hot during dinner. I'd be like standing outside on the patio while it was snowing, just like burning up. Like that's the extent of the dysregulation with my temperature. Obviously the itching, and then as it got worse, I started having a lot, well, aside from the anaphylaxis that was happening at every meal, I started having a lot of migraines, and my face would swell and my eyes would swell. So if I had a bad histamine reaction, the migraine and I couldn't open my eyes from the migraine, and because they were just swollen. My legs would also swell. Pretty much everything in my body would swell, and it was really, really bad. Those are my symptoms. Some people have a lot of skin reactions. Some people have, and achy joints. That's another one. Big one, achy joints. And just overall, like if I had a histamine reaction from something I ate the night before, people call it the histamine hangover, because you wake up feeling like you just got hit by a truck. And honestly, I've never had a real hangover. So that's to the extent of that I know what they feel like. It definitely doesn't make me want to ever have a hangover, because it's just pretty much terrible. So if you have a histamine issue or you have a mast cell issue, there are a few things you can do again, I started seeing an allergist and a Chinese medicine doctor, and the protocol my Chinese medicine doctor had me on, she made her own bath salts. She made her own cream. She made her own, she called them teas, but they were supplement capsules. And I did that for a very long time, faithfully. Like, the creams are like thick and blue and like paste all over your legs. But I mean, this lady was incredible. She had kids in there with severe peanut allergies and like cured them of their peanut allergies. So she's definitely legit. But for me, it didn't fully work, and we're going to talk about that next. But the stuff with the allergist definitely did. The cromolyn, I think it was cetrizine, and then I also took albuterol. I'm off the cetrizine. I got off it like a month ago, and that's to help with like my breathing. And I can definitely tell that I'm not on it, but I was just, kind of trying to see if I could do without it. So far, I'm doing okay. Okay, I could say my breathing probably could be better, but I'm not suffering. And then my albuterol, I went off a while ago because I just didn't feel like I needed it anymore. I stopped having as many anaphylaxis reactions because of the cromolyn. So the cetrizine, the albuterol, I took it in liquid form, but that's also commonly used for inhalers. And then the cromolyn sodium has been a big help. More natural things. I have tried the Hist DAO supplement. So pretty much, it's the DAO enzyme that breaks down histamine in your GI tract. And if you have a compromised immune system, compromised GI tract, you might not have enough of this enzyme to break histamine down. So I've been taking that on and off since like figuring out these issues. It's pretty expensive, so that's why I go on and off, because it's like, I don't know if it's like $1 a capsule or something. It's pretty expensive. And then I also take another histamine one that has some quercetin in it. And I know there are things like what's the nut? I can't think of it. Black sesame? That's supposed to be antihistamine as well. Turmeric, or some say turmeric. I've done back and forth, but I guess recent studies show that it can actually have the reverse effect with people with histamine. So I kind of stopped that because I actually started feeling the reverse effects and felt like I was reacting to it. So yeah, there are some different supplements that you can take. None of them have been like lifesavers for me. The one I take now, which is the D-Hist, that's the name of it, that's the brand. I try and take like 2 or 3 times a day. It is obviously on the pricier side, but I honestly feel like it is helping, so that's why I still take it. And I try and take it in between meals so that those compounds are kind of in my body before I introduce an allergen. So, and the only thing that I take from my Chinese medicine doctor is the seasonal allergy teas that actually seem to help the most out of all of them, especially with Tennessee allergies, because they are terrible. So those are kind of the supplements and drugs that I've taken, and along with the low histamine diet, those have helped me the most, but I still struggle today, and that is what we will talk about next. After all these years of healing diets, low histamine diets, drugs, supplements, why do I still deal with histamine issues? Most people would be like, what you're doing is not helping. Like, why are you still doing it? Well, 1, if I didn't do it, I'd get anaphylaxis at every meal. 2, my temperature would be way off all the time. I wouldn't be able to sleep. I'd be itchy all the time. I'd be miserable. I'd be a swollen, hot, miserable mess. Was that 2? I don't know. 3, the reason I still deal with histamine issues, it's not that my diet's not working. It's not that my supplements aren't working. It is because I still deal with active infections. So it's kind of been a chase, obviously, ever since I got diagnosed, to get on top of all the infections in my body. Multiple parasite treatment, or parasites, multiple like gram-negative bacteria, multiple like yeast and candida and co-infections, and just all this stuff from Lyme, on top of the Lyme. And so my body's always been fighting an infection, pretty much always been. and it's never had a time to like settle down, and my mast cells have never had a time to settle down. So that is why things are still the way they are. I mean, you can't expect to have overactive mast cells for 5 years and think that after a year of a healing diet, it's going to go away. I'm not saying it's not possible, but if you still have an active infection, if you still have something aggravating your mast cells and making them react day in and day out, I don't want to say it's pointless to do what you're doing, because it's not. Obviously, I still do it. But that is why I still struggle. That is why I still don't touch things like chocolate. That's why I still don't touch things like strawberries. That's why I don't touch spinach. That's why I try, if I have vinegar, it's very, very, very little, and it's just because I want something different on my salad, you know? And I try and eat antihistamine as possible, and by antihistamine, I mean cook my meats really fast, eat them when they're, you know, right after they're cooked, eat a lot of herbs. Fresh herbs are good antihistamines. Take my Epsom salt baths, because that really helps with my reactions and my inflammation overall. Getting enough sleep is a huge thing that also affects my allergies. Faithfully taking my supplements, really trying to, and I still struggle with this because, you know, it's life, but being in control of my emotions, because strong emotions can also activate mast cells. So if I get really angry, I know that I should not eat for another like 2 hours, because I will react. Or if I've been having a really bad day and I just get really emotional and upset, it's happened multiple times. It happened like last weekend. I was finally in an okay place. I was like, I'm gonna eat some dinner. Nope, my throat closed up. It was like, no, you're not doing this. So I try and be as faithful as possible. And right now I'm still on Bartonella treatment, and I feel like the more on top of my bacteria treatments we are, the better this stuff is gonna get. I also currently do urine injections, which help your body kind of deal with the allergens and make your body not react to them anymore. And those have been huge in regulating my temperature. I've talked about this in my chronic Lyme treatment video, but I originally went to this doctor for the LDA treatments. I'm still on the waiting list. Hopefully that is something we'll do in the future. I don't know. It's getting really dark in here, and I feel like I need to turn on a light so you can see me. But yeah, so that is why I still deal with mast cell issues, even after all that I've done. And maybe that's why you still deal with mast cell issues and histamine issues. But I would say don't give up, because in the long run, it is really worth it to just, even though your body might not be doing what you want, it might still be reacting, just giving it all the support you can. And, you know, one day maybe mast cells will be our friends again. I don't know. All right, guys. So I hope that was helpful. Sorry it got a little dark in here. I know that was a lot about my journey. But I also will link below to some articles that I've written. I've written a big one on histamine that people find really helpful. It also talks about mast cells in there. So if you have any other questions about allergies, chronic Lyme, whatever, shoot me a message, or also just put a little blurb about Beyond the Bite member club community that I just started. It's kind of a place where people like me and you that have all these, you know, issues can kind of come together, share recipes, share videos like this and different discussion forums, and just talk about different things in more of a private setting. And especially if you have a lot of questions for me and my journey and just things that I've gone through, and advice, I am more apt to responding to you if you are part of that group, because it's a smaller group than 11,000 plus people. So yeah, Beyond the Bite members community, I will link to that below. But I'll see you next time, guys.